A very long time ago, when the gods still walked among men, there lived a powerful spirit called Amadioha. He was the god of thunder, lightning, justice, and truth. People feared him, but they also respected him, for he was the one who punished evil and protected the innocent. When the sky roared with thunder, they said Amadioha was speaking. When lightning struck, they said his anger had fallen. The elders say Amadioha was not born like a normal human being. He came from Chukwu, the creator of all things, sent down from the heavens to watch over the Igbo people. He appeared first in the land of Uzuzu. The people who saw him said he was tall and strong. His skin as dark as rain clouds before a storm, and his eyes shone like lightning. He hated lies, theft, and injustice. If someone swore an oath in his name and lied, lightning would strike them. If a man cheated his neighbor, thunder could destroy his home. But Amadioha also blessed those who lived honestly. Farmers prayed to him for rain, warriors prayed to him for strength, and traders prayed for safe journeys. It is told that Amadioha was married to Anyahu, the goddess of the sun. Together they balanced the skies. She ruled the day with light, and he ruled the storms. He had no human children, but many towns called themselves his children because they believed he protected them directly. In those days, there was another spirit called Ekwensu, the god of trickery, war, and chaos. Ekwensu enjoyed making trouble. He made villages fight each other, broke friendships, and pushed men to betray their brothers. At first, Amadioha warned him to stop, but Ekwensu laughed and said without chaos there was no strength, and that only the strong should live. Soon, the land was full of war. Villages burned, families fled into the forest, and fear spread everywhere. Amadioha could not stand it anymore. He sent a message to Ekwensu through the wind, telling him to meet at the plain of Nkwocha before the sun set, so they could settle their quarrel. The news spread quickly. Elders, warriors, and even other spirits came to watch, for everyone knew this would be no ordinary fight. The plain of Nkwocha was wide and open, with no trees to hide behind. The sky above was already dark with storm clouds, and lightning flashed in the distance. Ekwensu arrived first, wearing red war paint and carrying 2 sharp spears. He smiled like someone who was sure of victory. Amadioha walked in calmly, carrying no weapon, for his power was in the sky itself. Ekwensu attacked first, throwing a spear with great speed. But before it reached Amadioha, a bolt of lightning came down and split the spear in 2. Amadioha raised his hand and thunder struck the ground, making Ekwensu stumble. Still, Ekwensu rushed forward with his second spear. Amadioha stepped aside and called the wind, which blew dust into Ekwensu's eyes. Ekwensu fought fiercely, using tricks to vanish and reappear. Attacking from strange angles, they battled for hours. Neither gave up. The ground shook, the clouds roared, and flashes of light lit up the plain. But through it all, Amadioha had not yet shown his full strength. The wind got stronger, and the clouds above twisted as if the sky itself was watching. Ekwensu wiped the dust from his eyes and laughed, saying Amadioha was wasting his time. He leaped forward with the speed of a wild animal, striking again and again, but each time lightning flashed between them, forcing him back. The ground beneath their feet was turning to mud from the heavy rain that began to pour. Amadioha's eyes glowed brighter, and the air around him crackled. He called to the sky in a voice so deep it shook the earth, and the clouds answered. A single bolt of lightning came down, not to strike Ekwensu, but to trap him inside a circle of fire and light. Ekwensu tried to escape, changing shape into a black hawk, then a serpent, then smoke, but each time the lightning followed him, forcing him back into the circle. The people watching were silent. They had never seen such power. Amadioha stepped forward slowly, each step followed by the sound of thunder. He told Ekwensu that his game had brought too much pain, that the land could no longer suffer his chaos. Ekwensu spat on the ground and said he would never stop, for chaos was his nature. Amadioha looked up at the sky once more, and the clouds opened wide. This time, the lightning that came down was so bright, it blinded everyone for a moment. It struck the ground in the center of the circle, and Ekwensu fell to his knees, his body shaking. The air smelled of rain and smoke. Amadioha did not kill him. He knew Ekwensu could never truly die, but he bound him with chains made from pure thunder, and the chains would weaken him and keep him from starting wars for a long time. The plains was quiet again, except for the sound of rain. The people cheered, and the warriors beat their spears against their shields. Amadioha turned and began to walk away. But the sky still rumbled as if warning everyone that his work was not yet done. He had won the battle, but he knew Ekwensu would one day return, and when that day came, the fight would be even greater. Amadioha returned to the villages, and for many seasons there was peace. Crops grew, rivers flowed, and trade flourished. But in the shadows, far away from open plains, whispers of Ekwensu's anger began to spread once more. Many seasons passed, and the people almost forgot the fear Ekwensu had once brought. They worked in their farms, fished in the rivers, and sang songs under the moonlight. But deep in the hidden parts of the land, far from the reach of the sun, Ekwensu sat in peace. The thunder chain around him was still strong, but each rumble of the earth, each quarrel between neighbors, each drop of blood spilled in anger fed his power bit by bit. He waited, watching and planning. One night, during a heavy rain, a small group of men entered the dark forest where Ekwensu was bound. They were angry with their village leaders, saying they had been treated unfairly. They called out to any spirits that could help them overthrow their chiefs. Ekwensu heard their cries and spoke softly, promising them victory if they broke his chains. At first, they were afraid, for they knew the story of Amadioha's victory. But greed and anger pushed their fear aside. They broke the ground around the chains and poured oil mixed with blood onto them. The chains began to weaken. The moment the last link broke, the sky above the forest flashed red instead of white. A roar shook the trees, and Ekwensu stepped out, taller and stronger than before. He thanked the men, but warned them that now they belonged to him. From that night, whispers of war began to move from village to village. Far away, Amadioha felt the change in the wind. The air was heavier, the thunder louder. He knew Ekwensu had escaped. He went to Anyahu, his wife, and told her the peace they had built was about to be tested. She told him the people would need more than just his strength this time. They would need to stand with him, or the land would fall into endless chaos. Amadioha traveled from village to village, warning the elders and calling for warriors. Some believed him and prepared for battle. Others, blinded by Ekwensu's promise of power, turned against him. Brothers began to fight brothers, and neighbors became enemies. This was Ekwensu's plan, to weaken the land from within before facing Amadioha again. One evening, as the sun sank low, scouts came to Amadioha with troubling news. Ekwensu was gathering a great army made of both men and spirits. In the middle of this army was a strange new weapon, a black spear that could swallow lightning. The scouts swore they saw it absorb a bolt of thunder without breaking. If this was true, it meant Ekwensu could finally face Amadioha without fear of the sky's power. Amadioha stood in silence for a long time. Then he looked to the darkening clouds and called for the storm to follow him. The battle that was coming would not be like the first. This one would decide not just who ruled the land, but whether the sky itself would belong to light or to darkness. The night before the battle, the wind would not rest. It tore through trees, carrying the smell of rain and smoke. In the distance, the drum of Ekwensu's army echoed, deep and slow, like the heartbeat of something dark and ancient. Villages emptied as families ran to hide in hills, leaving only warriors, hunters, and those too stubborn to flee. Amadioha stood at the edge of the plain of Nkwocha once again, the same place where he had defeated Ekwensu before. But this time, the plain was different, darker, heavier, as if the ground itself remembered the blood it had tasted. The clouds above swirled and thunder rolled without stopping, waiting for Amadioha's call. Ekwensu's army came first, row after row of men with painted faces, carrying spears and shields. Behind them were spirits that moved like smoke, their shapes changing with each step. At the center, Ekwensu walked, taller than before, his eyes glowing red, and in his hand was a black spear. Even from far away, Amadioha could feel its strange power. The two armies faced each other. The ground was silent, except for the distant hiss of rain. Then Ekwensu stepped forward and raised the black spear. Lightning struck from the clouds above, aiming straight for him, but the spear drank it in. The flash disappeared and the sky went quiet. Murmurs spread through Amadioha's warriors. For the first time, lightning had failed to touch Ekwensu. Amadioha knew he had to act fast. He lifted his hands, calling the storm, but every bolt of lightning he sent was swallowed by the black spear. Ekwensu laughed, his voice carrying across the plain, and signaled his army to attack. The ground shook as men and spirits charged forward. Amadioha met them head on. The thunder in his voice knocked warriors off their feet, and the wind he called was so strong it tore shields from hands. But for every enemy he struck down, two more took their place. His warriors fought bravely, but the spirits of chaos were hard to kill. They slipped through arrows, vanished before spear tips, and reappeared to strike from behind. In the middle of the chaos, Ekwensu moved towards Amadioha, cutting through the storm as if it was nothing. The black spear in his hand glowed with each bolt of lightning it swallowed. When they were close enough to see each other's eyes, Ekwensu struck. Amadioha blocked the blow with a shield of wind, but the force pushed him back, digging his heels into the wet earth. They fought in the center of the plain, blow for blow, the clash of God against God shaking the ground. The black spear hissed each time it met Amadioha's lightning, turning it into nothing. The people watching from far away began to wonder if this time Ekwensu would win. As the fights dragged on, Amadioha realized the truth. He could not destroy the spear with thunder or lightning. He would need another kind of power, one Ekwensu would not expect. But to use it, he would have to risk everything, even his own life. The rain was now falling so hard, it stung like stones. The plain had turned to mud, and the thunder above seemed trapped, unable to strike with his full force. Amadioha kept his eyes on the black spear, watching the way it swallowed each bolt like a hungry mouth. He realized then that he could not defeat Ekwensu by giving him what he wanted. Lightning and thunder only fed the weapon's strength. He stepped back slowly, letting Ekwensu think he was retreating. Ekwensu grinned and came forward, spinning the spear in his hands. Around them, the battle still raged. Amadioha's warriors fighting with spears, bows, and courage against the shifting chaos of Ekwensu's army. The air smelled of blood, smoke, and wet earth. Amadioha remembered the words of his wife, Anyahu, before he left for the plain. The sky is yours, but the earth will always be older and stronger than the storm. He had been born of the heavens, but Chukwu had also given him the right to call upon the deep powers of the land itself. It was a power he had never used in battle because it came with a great cost. He planted his feet firmly into the mud, closed his eyes, and reached not upward to the clouds, but downward into the belly of the earth. The ground beneath them began to hum, and the rain suddenly stopped, as if the world was holding its breath. Even the spirits on the battlefield slowed, uneasy. Ekwensu laughed at first, raising the spear for another strike, but then his smile faded. The black spear was growing hot in his hands. It was not swallowing power, it was rejecting it. From deep under the plain, a low rumble rose, not like thunder, but like a giant waking from sleep. Cracks split the ground, glowing faintly with red light. Amadioha opened his eyes, and they were no longer the pale flash of lightning. They were the deep, burning red of Earth's heart. He spoke only once, and the sound was so heavy it made even the spirits cover their ears. The ground beneath Ekwensu broke open, a great burst of fire and heat rushing upward. The black spear screamed like a living thing, its dark glow flickering. Ekwensu tried to pull back, but his feet were sinking into the soft, burning earth. The spear's magic was failing. He roared in rage, throwing all his strength into breaking free. But the more he struggled, the deeper the earth swallowed him. Amadioha stepped forward, his voice calm but dangerous, telling Ekwensu This was his last chance to leave the land in peace. But Ekwensu was too proud. With one last desperate cry, he hurled the black spear at Amadioha. The god caught it with his bare hands. The weapon burned and hissed, but the earth's power ran through him now. It could no longer harm him. The spear cracked, then shattered into pieces that turned to ash in the rain. The ground closed again, and Ekwensu was forced back, retreating with what remained of his army into the dark forest. The battle was over, but Amadioha knew it was not the end. Ekwensu would return one day, for chaos never sleeps. As the sun finally broke through the clouds, the people gathered around Amadioha. They thanked him, but he did not smile. He knew the land had been saved, but at a cost. The deep power of the earth was not meant to be called often. Using it had taken part of his own strength, and the next time Ekwensu came, the fight might not end the same way. In the moons that followed, peace returned once more. The rivers cleared, the farms were green again, and laughter returned to the market. Yet the elders told their children never to forget the day the sky and the earth fought as one. They said Amadioha had given a part of himself to seal Ekwensu's defeat, and that the storms now came less often, not because he had abandoned them, but because he was resting, gathering his strength. In the evenings, when dark clouds gathered over the hills, the old men would point to the lightning and say, "He is watching." And when thunder rolled without rain, the mothers would whisper, "He is warning us." No one knew when Ekwensu would rise again, but the people believed that as long as they lived in truth, settled quarrels fairly, and kept peace among themselves, Amadioha's strength would grow with theirs. And if the day came when chaos returned to the land, the god of thunder would walk the plains again, his voice shaking the earth, his eyes blazing with the fire of the storm, ready to face his old enemy. And so the legend lived on, carried in every clap of thunder and every flash of lightning, a promise that justice would always return, no matter how long the night. The land rested once more under the watchful eyes of Amadioha. The thunder rolled not in anger, but as a warning, a promise that justice would always return. But far away, in the shadows where chaos sleeps, Ekwensu waits, and the day will come when the storms must rise again. Until then, remember this: evil wins only when good people do nothing. Live in truth, stand for justice, and when the thunder calls, answer. Please like, comment, share this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more educative and inspiring stories and myths. Until next time, this is Folktales by Fayoke, where history comes alive.